Good afternoon. I got myself a manifesto to react to for you today. Yeah, it's manifesto season here in Path of Exile, and wouldn't you know it, all your favorite streamers, they're coming back from the woodwork after their long hiatus of not playing the game for a while. I'm sitting over here just closing out 3.19, nice and easygoing, still doing some farming, still having a great time. I have taken a look and seen what many of the other content creators are saying. You know, there are certainly a selection of creators who like to react to every single little piece of morsel information that GGG drops. It's not really my thing. In the event that something like a manifesto is highly relevant to the way I play the game and what I'm all about, you can count on me to make comments about it. I suspect there are a lot of people who do want to hear my opinion. I do offer a unique voice on this topic. I kind of gave a little pot shot at some of the other content creators. In all seriousness, nobody really maximized this particular core mechanic, Arch Nemesis Goblin meta, God Touch farming. Nobody really tapped into it the way I did this league. And if you want to hear it from the perspective of somebody who, you know, really put in the work and saw what it was all about and produced tons of content that was of quite a lot of value to a lot of players, even spawned an entire new community. As a result, I'm going to offer you my thoughts on it. I'll do my best to kind of look at it through the lens of an everyday player, whatever that is. But yeah, of course, I'm very biased in favor of God Touch farming. I just made a video in defense of the Goblin meta, so to speak. As I understand, I've already looked at the manifesto. It looks like it's definitely going away in large part. But whereas a lot of comments and a lot of content creators are suggesting that Arch Nemesis is gone, the league is saved, 3.20 is going to save the league, it's the best thing that could ever happen. A little bit misguided in the information. Arch Nemesis is not disappearing completely. They brought about a lot of brand new modifiers, a lot of challenging modifiers on rare monsters, and as I understand it, those modifiers aren't completely going away. Maybe the game will be a lot easier, but you know, GGG has a funny way of shoehorning in the difficulty back into the game last second under the radar. I wouldn't be surprised if that sort of thing happens yet again. Doesn't bother me too much, but yeah, I'm going to react to this manifesto authentically. We're going to kind of take a look at it. We're definitely going to read it word for word, at least the very important parts here. GGG presented four different aspects of issues they felt that players had with Arch Nemesis, and then kind of put new goals in the way. This format plays itself out pretty well, I think, in the event that they're speaking on this particular topic. There was a Jewel manifesto that came out. I'm not reacting to it. There's nothing major going on in there. But here we go. It's a 3.20 balanced manifesto, monster mods, and Arch Nemesis. In our upcoming 3.20 expansion, Arch Nemesis will be replaced with a system that is more similar to the way monster mods worked in the past. Not to be mistaken with removed. It is still here. It's just... yeah, well, let me just go ahead and read it in here. There are basically four key issues players had with here. The keyword mod names were not fully descriptive of what they did. That's kind of interesting. This is a full walkback on GGG's sort of vision of trying to make rares more identifiable whenever you come up across them. Now, one of the major issues with rares before is that A, you couldn't really identify what they did, and B, it didn't matter if you identified what they did because they were a complete non-factor. They were just a joke in the game. Rares weren't anything special. They weren't anything really challenging you had to contend with. And GGG set out to fix both of those things with Arch Nemesis here. They're speaking on behalf of one aspect here, the descriptive side of things. I don't even think they really spoke about the difficulty side of things too much in here, which actually lead me to believe that they're going to try and make Arch Nemesis still harder than rares were before. Anyway, the second one here said mods often had multiple effects bundled, which made them harder to understand. Now, that does speak on difficulty a little bit in a different kind of way. Later on here, they give an example about Magma Barrier having like 5 different aspects, different things about it, and what they want to do here As it says here, the goals of new system mods do one specific thing. So they mentioned here that magma barrier will just put a ring around it. It won't actually give the monster fire resistance. It won't create the little fire explosions after death effects. It won't give the monster physical gain as extra fire. Everything else, those will just come in as separate modifiers after this. Now, on its face, it sounds like it's going to make the game way easier. But I'm reserving judgment on that. I'm not 100% sure that's how that's going to work here. Back up on the issues here, it says, due to how many effects were included in single mod, it made many encounters too complex. I feel like they really wanted to use the word difficult here, but they ended up writing complex. Who cares if it's complex? If it's fun and it's challenging, great, you know. But maybe what they're just trying to really say is that it was too much, it was too challenging, too difficult. And if that is the case, maybe we can count on the game to be a bit easier. But notice they didn't actually put the word difficult there. I find that peculiar a little bit here. The fourth one here, the way Arch Nemesis rewards were set up meant that many players felt like they couldn't just kill a monster. They had to consider if they wanted to bring a Magic Find character in to maximize rewards. So that is the big thing. And you know what? I think just about everyone, including myself, is happy to see this change. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wanted the game to be balanced in a way that you run into a monster that you know is going to drop loot, and then you're not ready to kill it. You feel like you got to go out and, you know, purchase a service from TFT to get a Magic Find caller in. Casual players didn't want that. Middle of the road players didn't want that. The highest upper echelon of player didn't want that. I didn't want that. Nobody wanted that. Nobody wanted to feel like they had to do that. That completely destroys the flow of gameplay, and I especially didn't like it, so much so that I actually set out to, my answer to that issue was, fine, if that's how it's going to be, I'm just going to build a character that is strong enough to do the content and has enough Magic Find to quite literally warrant not doing that. So I can feel good about just playing the game and killing the monsters and getting the loot solo myself. And that was, you know, that was kind of the cornerstone of a lot of my content that I made this league, was showing people they could do that. It made a lot of people happy that they realized they could do that. That you not only didn't have to do the Magic Find caller thing, you didn't even have to do like group play to feel like you were getting, seeing the, you know, major loot drops and what have you. Their solution, players are no longer required to do it, annoying actions to maximize rewards. So that is going to be listed down here. It's going to be a very important part to read here. Mods do one specific thing. I already mentioned that about Magma Barrier. Mods say what they do rather than having a thematic name you must learn and remember. I find it interesting that they really pushed hard on this vision thing of thematic, you know, like the monster that has hasted. Okay, well, that monster probably runs faster, probably attacks faster, probably has more action speed or whatever. And, you know, that's kind of how it worked. And I don't know, I felt like that was all right. And the monster had the green swirly things on its feet, and you could identify pretty quickly what that monster was. You'd actually literally see it moving and attacking faster than most other monsters as well. Yeah, I don't know. I find it odd that they want to walk this back, but I guess, you know, there's just too much pushback about theme versus simplicity, and people just want simplicity. But in my opinion, actually what people want is easier game. They don't really care. Personally, I don't really care if it's complex or simple, if it's thematic or what have you. Yeah, but so I don't really have any strong feelings about basically these top two things. In general, I don't have any strong feelings about it personally. And I don't really think other players do either, to be honest. I think they just want the game to... They like the older system because the rares were easier to kill. If people are being honest with themselves, I think that's really what it was all about. Encounters are simplified on average while retaining interesting fights. Again, what do you mean interesting? Do you mean complex? Do you mean difficult? Again, kind of reiterating what I said before. A lot of people didn't like the on-death effects that occurred on here. Yeah, it was a little bit overwhelming at times. It was definitely more challenging. There's just a lot of modifiers can pile on top of each other. When you combine everything together, you know, a 5-modded Arch Nemesis mod monster could have essentially like 20 or 30 different modifiers on it if you really piled up everything together. Yeah, it made for quite an overwhelming challenge encounter sometimes. And yeah. That's the thing people had issues with. It was too difficult. in my opinion, that was the big issue with it. All right, now we're getting to the most important part here, where they talk about players are no longer required to do annoying actions to maximize rewards. So let's see what this says here. In Arch Nemesis, rewards are associated with individual mods. That's the conversions that take place. This meant that you could tell what kind of rewards you would get in advance. This is something I really liked, but I understand it was a double-edged sword. So you see a monster, you know it's going to drop flasks. Not very exciting. You see a monster, you know it's going to drop currency. That's a lot more exciting. Depending on whether or not you can kill the monster. Depending on whether or not you put a Reliquary Scarab in. Depending on whether or not you have Magic Find in. If you checked off all the boxes, it got really exciting. My absolute favorite moment this league, I think, is whenever I got my revenge on the duped Highwayman. I was running Essences in Jungle Valley. And it was duped Essences, and I ran into a Solaris Touch empowering minions plus 2 other mods that had Shrieking Essences on it. I knew it would be duplicated. Got me really excited. I could prep myself up. I had the Headhunter on. I was going to go on, okay, I need to get a bunch of Headhunter buffs before I come back here. I'm going to do this mechanic. I'm going to do this Breach. I'm going to do this Legion. I'm going to supercharge my character up. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to have my Divination Distillate Flask on, my Gold Flask on. Everything's going to be perfect. Just going to blast that pair of monsters to oblivion. And I did exactly that. And it was glorious. It was absolutely glorious. It was picture perfect, the best aspect of what this anticipation of loot had to offer. In my previous video, I mentioned this was akin to, a bosser who set up their feared invitation is getting ready to kill the last monster or 2. They know they've won the mechanic. All right, am I gonna get a triple modded Watcher's Eye? Am I going to get that Bottle of Faith? What is it? Having that feeling. And I didn't know how many Divine Orbs the monsters were going to drop. I got 19 Divine Orbs in total from that encounter. Quite satisfying indeed. And I'll never forget it. That was absolutely a moment not to forget. Especially because a long time before that, I had a similar case where I didn't kill the monster. So, henceforth, I got my revenge. Extremely satisfying moment for me this past league. And I'm going to miss that. Of course, I'm going to miss that. But what that means for a lot of other players is, oh no, I have to go on TFT and get Magic Find Color because I don't have the player power or the Magic Find to justify killing this on my own. And now I got to do this and that, and that's annoying. Hey, I get it. I can sympathize with that. I understand where it's coming from. I went out of my way to answer that dilemma my way, but it's not something that everyone could do or would do or was willing to do in the face of that issue. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, and we're seeing that sword go away entirely in this case here. It says in some cases you were then effectively required to fetch a Magic Find Calling character to make sure that you can maximize the value of monster mods that you found. In other cases, you would ignore the monster completely if you knew that it would only drop rewards that were no value to you. In the new system, we have added a significant pool of new rare rewards to rares, but the reward that is on the monster is hidden and not associated with a specific mod. So, you don't know what kind of rewards you will get until you kill the monster. Rare monsters with more rares are more likely to have these special hidden reward mods. The new reward system smooths out the spikiness of Arch Nemesis reward system had. Well, that's fine. I don't mind that they are smoothing it out as long as we still have the opportunity to kill rares, to kind of hunt rares in general. Essentially, God Touch farming is just going to transition over to rare farming, basically. And, it's funny. I was looking at some comments there on like Reddit and stuff. The trolls are actually pretty smart here. There are a lot of people that were kind of trolling about, well, great, now this just means we have to have Magic Find on at all times because we can't even anticipate when we're going to kill the monster. And they might be exactly right, actually. This may make the game even more mandatory in a way. You may feel even more mandated to roll a Magic Find character because now you can't even see it coming. Now you just have to make sure you have everything set up good to go on the map, that the right kind of character at all times. I don't know if that's how it'll be. Hopefully Magic Find doesn't have too much of an impact so that people feel this massive FOMO if they're mapping without a Magic Find character at all times. But I certainly do hope there is a place for Magic Find. Still, there's no mention here of the conversions. If the conversions are going away completely, it's a little bit kind of a secret here. But the fact that they're introducing kind of a new hidden modifiers or rares, maybe they're just moving the conversions into giving it more randomization, making the loot overall less. I don't know. To me, it's hard to read into this exactly. We're going to see the patch notes eventually, but to me, it looks like magic finding is still going to be a thing for this. As far as the three major types of players, you either have, a magic find culling service, you got magic find culling groups, and then you got the solo player who kind of does it all themselves. The first player in that category is gone. Now that's not a thing at all. Magic find culling service, not a thing. Magic find culling in groups might still be a thing. Probably will be, even with the core game. And then just kind of the do it yourself or do it all kind of solo player may still be a thing. I don't know. It kind of remains to be seen. I kind of like the fact that it's hidden. It's definitely going to I think it'll make a lot more people happy than it will make upset. Because again, there's a whole double-edged sword thing, but I don't mind. I don't mind too much. Again, I'll miss the whole situation where you see the, Innocence Touched beam just come out of nowhere, out of a red beast or something. You're like, oh, there it is. We're going to get a ton of scarabs here in a second. I'm going to miss that, sure. But as long as I still get my scarabs and still get my divine orb explosions one way or another, I guess it's not so bad. More often, smaller stacks, fine. Not so bad. It says here, in conclusion, the original motivation for developing Arch Nemesis was the previous monster mod system was very out of date. Okay, I agree. Many of the mods didn't have an appreciable, I don't really know what they mean by that, effect under modern balance, and there wasn't a lot of interesting gameplay possible. In our opinion, Arch Nemesis did succeed at adding a lot of interesting new mechanics to rares, but introducing the problems described above. While creating new monster mods described in the article, we are careful to retain most of the interesting mechanics that Arch Nemesis introduced, but in a way that doesn't include a grab bag of other effects and is diluted by many other simpler mods. Sounds like they're just kind of simplifying things in a manner that's actually going to make the game easier. Sounds like. The result is a system that's very similar to what the monster mods used to be like, but a much more up-to-date content balance. Mods are simpler and say exactly what they do, while you can certainly still rarely encounter a scary combination of mods that really wake you up. It's a lot rarer, and it was under the Arch Nemesis system. We feel that the new system is more modern and interesting than the old Monster Mod Nemesis system. Yeah, I think so. And is clear and easier to understand in the heat of combat than Arch Nemesis was. Well, I hope it's better. I hope it's a positive thing. I just recalled that somebody had asked Bex a while back if, now because all these Arch Nemesis mods are being split up in the piecemeal fashion, if we're going to see rares that have 10 or 15 modifiers on them. They said no, it's supposed to only see 2 to 4. So that tells me right there that if that is indeed true, I don't really see there being any way that this doesn't produce an easier gaming experience across the board. But at any rate, the goblin meta itself, where you see the goblin and, what are you going to do about the goblin to kill it? That's gone. That is indeed gone. God touch farming, maybe God touch monsters are still a thing. Maybe they still have some conversions, or the God's touch loot is just kind of hidden amongst other monsters. So in a way, maybe God touch farming's not entirely gone. And it sounds like farming rares, is probably not gone at all, really. Magic finding for the sake of killing these rares may be gone. It remains to be seen. Probably a lot of testing will have to be done, especially if they don't release thorough patch notes on that. I foresee a scenario by which, maybe one of the best ways to farm is to do something like, once again, Legion, maybe Breach, farm them for their league-specific rewards, go out on Dooms, farm Legion and Breach, get a ton of rares to spawn, wear a bit of Magic Find doing that, forcing Chayula breach splinters, and getting a lot of Legion emblems that way. Probably something like that is going to yield a lot of currency per hour next league. But yeah, who knows? We'll see. That's all I got for you today. I'm looking forward to the Altar Manifesto, sort of. I'm actually a lot more afraid of that manifesto in terms of how it might get things nerfed. I had mentioned in one of my previous videos, I think the best thing that GGG came out with as far as new game mechanics this entire year. I think the best thing it came out with was the altars in 3.17 as part of the core, the Eldritch altars. It's definitely spiced up the game, made people feel like, they needed to actually play at the highest level, tier 14 and above. The rewards are significant for that, and they definitely tied into some interesting synergies with God Touch farming, but at least the Eldritch minion rewards on the altars are still good. So we'll see what the altar manifesto has to offer. I will maybe make a video on it. We'll see, depending on how impactful it is. But in the meantime, thank you for checking out this content, and enjoy the brand new outro video. This is going to be the first video that I finally got around to setting up an end screen on there. So with that, I'll see you guys later.